So I'm going to show you several ways of getting your Bootstrap ready for your project. The first way, as I was talking about, is the first way is how you can use a compiled or a customized form of Bootstrap. Now all these components actually leads us to something like these JavaScript components. If you're willing to use a slider or a slideshow on your website, then you will obviously need this carousel JavaScript component. If you want a nav bar or a navigation bar or a menu like this, if you want a menu like this and you want your menu to respond to different screen sizes, then obviously you will have to have this CSS and HTML navbar component. If you want your buttons, a button like this, let me show you one. If you want a button like this, then obviously, although that's not going to look exactly like that, but it's going to, it will be a lot similar like that. If you want a button like that, then obviously you will have to have this HTML and CSS component, and we will have to have a grid system. Why? Because that grid system will actually help us to organize our code for our desktop users, for our tab users, the tablet users, and also for our mobile users. Now, different users have their different, preferences on the basis of their screen sizes. Now, the smaller screens will only be able to show the most important part, and we must design our site which will show the most important part on smaller screen sizes, and we must also design for our desktop users which will actually show the entire or all the content of the site. Now, whenever you have chosen the components, like if you omit this carousel part and you do not want to use a slider or a slideshow on your website, then you just untick this box. Then if you do not want a drop down menu, then you untick that box, and then you go to the bottom of this page and you click on this compile and download button. This will compile your customized Bootstrap, and that will give you a zip file on your machine. So if you find this to be a hard way or if you find this to be tough, then there are other ways. Like if you are someone who knows about the Node.js framework and you have worked with the npm or the Node package manager, then you can, and you also have the npm installed on your system, then you should go for this npm install Bootstrap. If you have the accessibility or the advantage of using the Bower framework, then you can also use Bower to install your Bootstrap. Then you also have the capability of using Composer as a starting point for your Bootstrap. Now there are two other ways. The first way is to download the Bootstrap framework using this download button, or you can go for the source code just for the source code, and you can also go for the CDN. Now there are two basic differences in between this downloading the Bootstrap files, and also you also have a difference if you go for the CDN. Now the CDN is essentially something that's known as the Content Delivery Network. So you can also look at this code. These are essentially, HTML tags and elements. So this link tag will bring, or it will help you to bring the features of a style sheet inside your page. You can link a style sheet using this link element. So the CDN is something like you have all these style sheets, you have all these JavaScript codes, and you host those codes and style sheets on a different host or on a different server, and you use the uniform resource locator or you use the address to bring that specific style sheet on your script. Like if you're trying to use that, if you're trying to use a style sheet for your index page or your home page, then you can just use the address of that server and you can bring up the functionality of that style sheet. So let me make this a little more clear for you. So what we are trying to do in here is that you can actually look at this file. So this is the file name, bootstrap.min, and by the end of this .css you can actually recognize that this is a style sheet. This is not a PHP script, neither is this anything related with the JavaScript. So anything that ends up with the .css means that this is a style sheet. Now this style sheet is being hosted by someone else. It's not being hosted by our machine. And similarly, this JS, if you can recognize this .js means that this is a JavaScript file. Now this JavaScript file has got something known as the bootstrap.min. Now there is something funny about these two files. Usually what we understand is that anything that ends with dot something or anything after this dot actually means a file type or the extension, or it actually tells us something about this file type or what sort of code it contains. But in here we have also got something like .min, and in here also we have got something like .min. Now this .min means a minified version, like this. It's also written in here, minified CSS and JavaScript. Now this minified version is something not like what we create in our real life. After you create a style sheet, when you minify your style sheet, you are going to strip off or cut off all the white spaces in your style sheet. So what it means is that it's going to reduce your file size by some degree or some kilobytes, and what it will do, it will help you to organize your file. And when you have a smaller file size, when you have a reduced file size, it's going to load faster on your visitors' browsers. So that's really important when you are trying to develop a